let's get this show on the road.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Welcome to Webster's Red Door podcast, where we discuss various topics surrounding the English department. I'm your host, Maggie Sanchez. I am a creative writing major, and I am a minor in Japanese and history. And I am your host of this lovely podcast. Today I'm sitting down with the man, the myth, the legend, and the English department's former chair and former Webster student, Murray Farish. Hello,
Hey,
Murray.
Maggie, how are you?
I'm good. How are we doing? How are
I'm
we
talking
feeling
to you
today?
like I didn't just see you an hour ago in class, but
I know. I really
that's what
wanted.
we do for podcasts.
Tell us a little something about yourself, Murray. Like, why choose the English department as a major?
Listen, I mean, I think there are all kinds of reasons to choose an English or creative writing major. I mean, it's a wonderful degree for people who want to learn how to be generalists and learn how to think and learn how to think on their feet and learn how to adapt to new things. And those kind of skills are going to be in demand and, out in the world. I also think that, aside from what you can learn in our classes that might be good for helping you get a job one day, our classes are the kind of classes that also help you to better enjoy life, right? That learning how to look more deeply at things, learning how to think more deeply at things, learning how to write well about things and organize your thoughts about things are really valuable skills to carry through your life, right? Just because they're gonna help you to see things on a deeper level and appreciate things more. So we have wonderful faculty. I mean, the people I get to come to work with every day are the reason that I want to keep doing this. That and the faculty that I work with and the students that I get to work with. It's a great place to be, right? Um, not just a great place to go to school, although it is that. It's just a great place to come and do the work that I want to do and that we all want to do on a daily basis. And it's a place that, well, I mean, like you said, it's I was a student here. This is a place that tends to stay with people, right? And a lot of that has to do with the things that we do here, with the work that we do and the reading and the writing and the talking about stuff. But a lot of it has to do with those people, right? There's a way in which the faculty who are here now, and I'm talking about the full-time and the adjunct faculty, are a lot of ways part of a lineage that goes back to Sister Deborah Pearson, for whom Pearson House is named, and runs through teachers like Rita Madsen and Harry James Cargus, and then of course sort of runs to David Kluhl. And there's this sort of direct line that you can trace back where the standards have always been high, but so is the love for what we do and the love for each other and the the sense of togetherness that we have in Pearson House. I think makes it a really great place to be a student and a really great place to be a teacher.
I would totally agree with that. Mary actually inspired me to
Yeah,
get
Mary's
a
great.
major in creative writing.
Yeah,
So
great. We're glad
definitely
to have you.
tell me what separates the two, the English major and the creative writing major.
Less than you think. I mean, I one of the things that so one of those names I mentioned earlier, Rita Madsen, she's the person who really started the creative writing program. She brought David in to run that program back in the 80s. And when the creative writing program started, it was an emphasis in the English degree, right? So um, as the program grew and as we added more faculty, we started to get a sense from students that they were interested in a creative writing degree rather than an emphasis in English. And so we created the creative writing BA. But we're still very true to the vision that Rita had when she started the creative writing program, which was it's an English degree that focuses on writing the creative stuff, right? So we still want students to have that foundation in the literature. We still want them to have strong analytical skills. So it's sort of like, I guess one way to think of it is the creative writers, when they go off to do their thing, they're focused on doing it just a little bit more of that kind of writing. Whereas an English major is going to be focused on doing more analytical writing. It's sort of what you specialize in, right? But as you know, creative writing majors and English majors take the same core. They take 1900, they take the U.S. Lit, the two Brit Lit classes. They take a lot of literature courses. And of course, English majors also take a lot of creative writing workshops. We have a handful of English majors who are creative writing minors, right? So we're able to provide all of that kind of education for all of our students. And again, I, we talked a little bit ago about what makes the place special besides the people. And of course, the people are the thing that make this possible. We're a very versatile department for being such a small department. We conscientiously and purposefully work on developing new courses and listening to students. The people are just great, but they're not great just by getting up one day and falling out of a tree and saying, "I'm going to be great." It's intentional. It's purposeful. We're always trying to listen to what the students are looking for and trying to find ways that we can help get that to them while still getting them that sort of foundational education that an English degree anywhere sort of requires.
I definitely get that vibe. Why I chose the creative writing major was because I just felt at home in the Pearson
Yeah.
house with everybody. It's a good competitiveness.
Yeah.
It's like where we meld together like-minded people and just come together and want to write well
Yeah. Yeah.
and like articulate well.
And I don't personally mind the idea of competitiveness, but I also don't think that's the way everybody sort of interfaces with it. I mean, I kind of, I don't mind that idea, but I think I'd phrase it a different way. I think we push each other,
Hmm.
right? And
Yes.
and in doing so, we support each other. So it doesn't involve the kind of, cutthroat zero sum game that competitiveness means to some people. It doesn't mean that to me, but that some people might feel that way about an idea like competitiveness. I think it's more that we're trying to push ourselves to see how much we can achieve and how much we can learn and how much we can grow. And that kind of thing requires everybody supporting everybody, right? And whereas competitiveness might mean, well, if I knock you down, I can get ahead, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's like that at all,
Oh yeah.
right? I
It's
think it
very
is,
communal.
yeah, I think
It's
it's definitely a communal place. It's a place where and you're starting to see it come back a little bit. It took a while after the pandemic for people to start treating Pearson House like their second home
mhm.
on campus again,
Yeah.
but you're starting to see it a little bit more. People are coming to hang around and, taking naps on the couch down in the lounge in the basement, that kind of thing that used to be regular occurrences.
I call the
Or
student
yeah,
lounge like that room near Bruce's office,
yeah,
my
yeah,
office,
yeah, yeah.
because I'm always in
Right
there
on. Yeah,
and just messing with Bruce.
that's the way it's supposed to be in Pearson House. It's the a place that everybody who comes in there wants to keep coming back, right? And
Oh,
again, I think that has a lot to do with the people who are in that building. A building's just a building. I mean, it's a cool building, but a building's just a building. It's the people that make that happen.
exactly. I've
Yeah,
met some of the best people in Pearson,
yeah,
and that pushed me to strive to be a better writer.
yeah.
Like
Good.
we actually have like we will come together and like form little workshops after
Yeah,
our
good.
workshops.
Well, let's talk about some of that stuff a little bit
Yeah,
because I mean, I
got
think
you.
there are lots of opportunities for the kind of thing you're talking about, and I just want to make sure that I talk about some of the things that are going on in the creative writing program and in the English department this spring. Certainly, when you talk about coming together in little workshops, that's an awesome thing to do. I mean, we do that in our classes, but it's a different dynamic and a different feel when it's just students and there's no faculty around, telling you how to do things differently. And that's great. One of the ways that you can do that, you and all of our creative writing and English majors, and even people who aren't creative writers or creative writing or English majors or minors who might be listening to this, can join the Webster Writers Coalition. That's a wonderful group for getting together and sharing creative writing, for getting constructive and helpful criticism from other members of that club. A couple of years ago, it won Webster's Best New Club, and I'm really kind of proud of that. And I think that's something we ought to kind of hang our hat on. Is that's a welcoming place where people can come together and talk about their work. We also have the Literature Club, which is getting more and more active over the last couple of years since coming back from the pandemic.
I think I just read
So
the book Perfume.
um,
I think last
yeah,
semester they were like
yeah,
going through that book.
yeah. And I mean, again, these are clubs that are sort of organized by creative writing and English majors, but you do not have to be a major in one of our programs to be a part of those clubs. You just have to want to be a part of what the club's doing. We also have, of course, the Green Fuse coming out. I don't even know how to count. The Green Fuse started in the 1970s and has never stopped. We did not even let the pandemic keep us from publishing our issues. And the Green Fuse is Webster Student Literary Magazine, as you know. We publish drama, fiction, poetry, and creative nonfiction from Webster University undergraduate students worldwide. Our editorial staff is all students. They make the decisions about what goes in the magazine. They design the magazine. They edit and proofread and publish the magazine. So it's a student operation, and it's really I think it's one of the best things Webster University does, much less one of the best things our department does. We also have the Mercury, which is our annual publication of the best work from our English courses. You do not, again, have to be an English major or a creative writing major to be represented in that magazine, but our editors do tend to come from students in the department. We also have surfacing coming back for the second year in a row since the pandemic. We had to put our one act playwriting festival surfacing on a bit of a hiatus during the pandemic because you couldn't, get an audience in a room to watch plays. And so last year was the first year that it was back under the outstanding production of Luna Martin, a student here at Webster, who has done an incredible job and will be back this year as the producer of Surfacing again. Um, if people listening got a chance to go last year, I think they saw the to my mind, the first time the English department really had an event where I felt like, okay, we're all the way back now, right? We probably had 100+ people in the audience to watch the plays that again were student written, student acted, student directed, student produced, student text. And so surfacing is another really cool thing that the creative writing program helps to put together, and we'll be doing that again. We also have a very important event coming up in April as we welcome fiction writer Allegra Hyde as the next visitor in the David Kluhl Visiting Writers Series at Webster University. Allegra will be giving a reading that's open to the public on April 4th. That's a Thursday at 1:30 in Sun and Lounge. Allegra is a phenomenal writer. I don't want to pigeonhole her by saying that she's a climate fiction writer, although that's one of the places where sometimes she gets marketed. She is. She writes a lot about climate and climate change and the effects that that's having on our world. But
Very
she's
important.
also very important. But she's also just a drop dead gorgeous prose writer. Her sentences are amazing, and I really can't wait to meet her. I don't know her yet, but I'm really looking forward to having her come in and hang out with us for a day or so. And then later in April, a really special event at 6 o'clock on April 18th in the Pearson House. We're going to have a book launch party for adjunct professor and poet Travis Mazzotti, who has a couple of new books coming out this spring. Travis is a prolific dude and a really terrific poet. And we can't wait to hear him read from his work that night and just come together to celebrate Travis. Um, our students, both current and former, continue to do incredible things out in the world. Travis is a former student here, a graduate of Webster University. And I believe this is his fifth and sixth books of poetry that's coming out this
Oh,
spring.
wow.
We are extremely excited about one of our alums, Deborah Taffa, and her first book coming out in February, a memoir called Whiskey Tender. We're going to definitely try to have Deborah come in as part of the series at some point soon to read for us and share her work. It's going to be it's a book that's getting a lot of good advanced press, and it's really going to be exciting to see what happens with Deborah. And then, sort of on the other end of the spectrum, we have a current student, a creative writing minor named M. Stevens,
I'm so
who has
excited.
just published her first story in a national undergraduate magazine called the Oakland Arts Review, which is a very big deal.
Way to
It's
go,
it's a
Em.
it's a prestigious magazine. It's not it's publishing stuff from undergrads all over the country. So Webster students have done really well in the Oakland Arts Review. We've had a number of students published there, but we're really excited for them and to see their work in that magazine is very cool. So lots of exciting stuff happening in the creative writing program in the English department, and we're just thrilled to 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 get another semester started with our students.
Oh, for sure. It's an exciting semester. Tell us what kind of programs you got going on right now. Like, what kind of classes do you offer at the moment?
Well, we've got, as always, the full slate of workshops in poetry. In the springs, we always do creative nonfiction, so we've got that going on. Elizabeth Hoover is teaching that.
I'm excited
We have
for
got
that class.
two literary fiction workshops with me and Mary Bacon, and we have our fantasy and sci-fi fiction writing workshop with Jeff Ricker on Tuesday nights. Um, what else is going on? I'm teaching a topics in fiction course on time and fiction. This is a topics in fiction for people who don't know are kind of a upper level course for juniors and seniors typically. They're kind of a hybrid type class between workshop and lit class where we take one particular element perhaps of making poems or fiction or plays, and we study that in depth and look at it how it operates in a lot of published writers writing, and then we try to emulate these techniques and ideas in our own work. So I do topics in fiction class on time, this new one that I developed when I was on sabbatical this fall. I also have one on style, making sentences using the language well. I have one on place, setting, location in fiction, and I have one on point of view. So we kind of rotate those around, and I was on sabbatical in the fall, so I decided as part of that to build a new one, and that's what we've just gotten into this past couple of weeks.
So you keep talking about sentences and sentence building.
Yeah.
Why is that important to focus just solely on sentence building?
Well, let's not say focus solely, right? But I do think that, well, I tell my students this all the time. The difference between you and Toni Morrison, or you and George Saunders, or you and Charles Dickens, or whoever, it doesn't have much to do with intelligence. It doesn't have much to do with, oh, they're just geniuses. They're just magical storytellers. The difference between a student and a successful publishing writer is that the successful publishing writer makes better sentences than you do right now, right? And that's the key part of that right now, right? Because learning how to make sentences is something that we can study and that we can practice and that we can train ourselves for and that we can attune ourselves for, right? Well, one of the things that you'll always hear if you hang around creative writing long enough is, creative writing can't be taught. You can't teach that. People either have that or they don't. Well, I've been teaching it for 20 years, so unless I'm deluding myself, which is possible, but I doubt it, it can be taught. And I think that you can teach it by training students to attune themselves to something a little bit different in their reading, right? And we all become English and creative writing majors, I think, or I hope, because we really like to read, right? That's got to be. It feels like it's got to be the sort of generating spark. And once we start trying to do it, once we start trying to make poems and make stories and make plays and make essays, that requires us to, I think, shift our thinking and shift our eyes just a little bit, shift the way we read just a little bit. David Kluhl always talked about reading as a writer. And I think this is what it means, that we're not just taking in we're not just along for the ride with the story. We love being swept away by a story. We're not just taking the words in. We're actually watching how those words are constructed. We it's sort of like, when you look at the magic eye type picture, right? You have to adjust your depth of vision to
Not the
see.
translucent eye?
Yeah, well, not the transparent eyeball, no. But those pictures where you have to kind of stare at them for a while to see what emerges. That's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of how it is with writing. You have to stare at sentences for a while and figure out what is making me really like this sentence. And then, just the same way you learn everything else, you go and try to make a sentence like that, right?
Pure
You
poetry.
go and try to imitate or emulate what you're admiring in the work of other writers. And if you can't learn to write creatively that way, I don't know how you learn to do anything else, right?
I'm curious, is there a writer that inspired you?
There were a lot of writers who inspired me. I think back to when I first started, and I started seriously reading a long time before I started seriously writing, right? And so, I mean, I think back, writers like Barry Hannah and Jim Harrison and Tom McGuane were certainly writers that meant a lot to me. Hunter Thompson was a writer who meant a lot to me as a young serious reader. Um, and so these were sort of the writers who got me going. Andre Dubus is another one. Um, when I first started writing, one of my very favorite first writers was a writer named Elizabeth McCracken, who I still teach a lot, and who we brought here for the reading series a few years ago. Elizabeth's amazing. So but but also, I think you're always finding those writers, right? Or you're always hoping to find those writers. I mean, I think one of the keys to that is allowing yourself to still be inspired, right? Is not ever losing track of the fact that there's a lot to learn, right? I mean, no matter what level of the game you're at, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of there's always new information coming in, right? And that's again, I think one of the things that English and creative writing majors are sort of trained attitudinally to think that way, right? That because, as I say all the time, this ain't a math class, right? The knowledge is always evolving. There's always more out there, and there's always a lot to be humble of in the face of all that we don't know,
Oh,
right?
I'm
And
humbled
to
in the face of math,
well,
believe me.
sure, but math is sort of. Well, I'm sure there are degrees to which math is unconquerable, right? But the math that most people take, let's say, up to calculus, you can figure that out, right? There's always new stuff coming in this world. There's new writers, and there are writers that you just haven't read yet, right? And to keep yourself open for those kinds of things, and to always be looking at what you can learn from how those writers make sentences. Yeah, I think that's great. And I think it's really cool too to always be reminding myself of that as I'm trying to remind my students that, right? I think that's people sometimes ask you, yeah, how does teaching feed your writing? Well, that's really the way.
Yeah, you're
Um,
like inspired by all your students, right?
well, oh yeah, sure, sure. No, I mean, but no, you try to be. I'm frequently inspired by my students, but you try to be inspired by the process,
Mhm.
right? I'm big on process, and when you think about process in writing or process in teaching or process in anything, right? It's sort of about breaking everything down into its constituent parts and trying to strive toward excellence in each little part, and that's how the whole happens, right? You don't become a Nobel Prize winning writer by saying, I'm going to go win the Nobel Prize. You do it by focusing on how good a sentence can I make today, right now. And then if you focus on that and you don't win the Nobel Prize, you're still feeling okay about things, right? I mean, I'm
I
still planning on
guess
winning it. Don't get me wrong, but you
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 just
you you still get to focus on the process, right? That's the key. And that applies to teaching. It applies to being being a writer, being a reader. It can apply to everything. I'm just a big believer in trying to do as much as you can with the thing that's at hand right now, right? And not worry about the product. Yeah.
not the product of the shelf making for your Nobel
Right. Right.
Prize.
If I win the Nobel Prize, I'll have that done. All right. Don't worry.
You'll have like a spotlight for
Yeah.
it
I'll
as
have
well.
that. I'll have that built.
Yeah, 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 yeah. In the back of your office
Right.
as well.
Yeah. Sure.
And you'll actually tote it around.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, those backpacks that people have for their cats?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 You'll have that for your Nobel
All
Prize.
right. I like
Yeah,
that. I
I
don't even
would.
know what the Nobel Prize looks like. It may be
I don't
some kind
even
of big
think.
giant head or something that you carry around. I don't know.
I would
We'll see.
hope that it's an actual trophy and not
Mhm.
just like, recognition. I
I
mean,
don't know.
like, yeah, I
It's
want
a
the
lot of
recognition.
money. I'll tell you
Yeah,
that.
I'm like, I want the recognition, I want the money, but like, come on, like a trophy would be great
Yeah.
too.
I'm sure.
Like,
I'm sure they give you one.
yeah, like an Oscar where you
I'll
can
let
like
you. I'll
tell.
let you know.
please do. I would love to know. Not that I would probably like ever get one, but I would like to know somebody that
Yeah.
has one.
As soon as I get it, I'll let you know.
Is there a writer you find underrated?
Yes, Murray Farish is an underrated, right? No, I don't know. I mean, look again. I think yeah, I think that some of those writers that I mentioned a moment ago. I mean, the idea that Andre Debussy is not a famous writer. David Kluhl, for God's sake. I mean, the idea that David Kluhl isn't one of the most famous poets in America befuddles and bemuses me. I can't make sense of it. I'll put his body of work over a 40-year career up against anybody who was writing at the time of his death. And that invariably stuns me. I think all writers are underrated. Writing can teach you to be a little bit less certain about yourself and about the things you believe. Be a little bit more open to the possibilities out there, to the infinitesimally small possibility that you may not be exactly right in all of your opinions, right? That we can be a little bit more emotionally and spiritually and intellectually flexible. Right? And I think that these are all things that being readers can teach us. Now, as students who read, we get the added advantage of getting to learn increasingly sophisticated methods and getting to practice in increasingly sophisticated ways the art of reading. Right? Emerson, who you and I are reading together right now, says that there is creative writing, but there's also creative reading. Right? And I think that that we have a wonderful opportunity as students, and even though we're teachers, we're also students of this stuff too, to get to practice those skills over and over, day after day after day. And when the students graduate from here, they can carry that forward again, like I said, throughout their lives. So
Well, Murray, it was so nice talking and
it was
sitting down
nice
with
talking to
you.
you, Maggie.
Like,
This was great.
no,
I'm real excited to get the podcast going again. I think you're going to do a terrific job with it. So
thank
we're
you.
really looking forward to hearing the finished product.
I'm nervous and like excited all at the same
Well, that's a
time.
good way to be, right?
I'm the brink of fear.
Yeah, that's right.
Is there any socials you would like to plug?
Yeah, everybody can always follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and we're kind of gone on a moratorium on TwitX or whatever it's called now. But we have started a
TwitX.
Threads account, so I don't know if we're going to do anything with Threads or not, but we're on there. You can follow us on all of those things at English at WebU, English ATWEBU. And yeah, be a part of that too. So that's that's cool. Thanks.
Bye.